Target was really out here trying to sell a Halloween minstrel show costume for kids.
This is what happens when you take people or you don't have people in the room that looks like us. You end up doing some shit like this.
And they were doing the Jim Crow pose and everything.
It made them seem foolish, simple of mind, not intelligent, cheap, an image and a stereotype that people use as a lens to judge African Americans.
Now, I'm a firm believer. When people tell you who they are, believe them. Like when Target completely abandoned DEI and any diversity initiatives after being threatened by Trump.
We're cutting up cars today.
It comes 1 year after the company's controversial move to roll back its diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, which sparked protests and boycotts by shoppers.
And now it seems like them selling the Jim Crow minstrel show costume is the direct result of them not having black people in the room.
This is a child's costume that Target had marked as a circus clown. Does that look like a fucking circus clown to y'all?
But I'm Jew, welcome to the channel. Please like and share the video. Don't forget to sub. Now, let's get into it.
This morning, Target is apologizing and removing a children's Halloween costume after it was widely criticized as racist. The images of the costume are being compared to racist caricatures.
And they got a black kid under there too. Come on, man. Like, we could not be this dead. It's just ridiculous. Everybody in the room had to know what they were doing and knew what that meant and signified. That is the Jim Crow minstrel show logo. Like, come on, man. We are not about to play dumb with this. You know that pose, what it means, the whole minstrel show act, the big off-color lips, the tiny hat to the side. We know what that represents. Are you telling me nobody in that room through all stages of production, review, and approval was like, this looks a little racist because it represents a racist time in America. We shouldn't do this. Nobody in that room, but no, because you know what? They canceled DEI. They probably don't have any black executives up there, no black supervisors, nobody that can make a firm decision or nobody that can make a real decision on anything or is even educated on black American history to know that this is racist. But this is absolutely racist. For the people that don't understand the significance of these stereotypical characters of what black people were supposed to be, they were created by racists during a very racist time in America, pre-Jim Crow, to paint black people in a bad light, to make us seem lazy, dumb, dim-witted, fumbling. That's what blackface represents. That's what minstrel shows are. So when we see them as black people, we know they're intended to be an offense to us. And anybody doing that in 2026, replicating that in this day and age, has no excuses. The reason why blackface has been so historically offensive to black people is because it was used by white people to propagate narratives against black people in film and television, to make us look bad, to make us look dumb, to make us look dangerous or greedy. So when you see blackface, you know it is somebody that does not like black people, that are portraying black people in a negative way.
Minstrel shows began in the 1830s, and white performers used burnt cork or later black grease paint
for the purpose of playing idiots and enslaved people. At one point, it was one of the most popular forms of entertainment and kept going from the mid-1800s all the way to the 1970s. Recently, there have been some internet personalities that have had the idea related to them. Often, the defense is that black people can't do minstrel shows, but that's a lie. William Henry Lane and Thomas Dilworth became the first black men to perform minstrel shows. The original Georgia minstrels dominated for a decade alongside Sam Hague's Slave Troupe and Rapidfoot minstrels. There were black people who performed in minstrel shows, hoping to capitalize on the racism, no matter the harm or shame it might bring to other black people.
It objectifies African Americans and distances them from their humanity. It made them seem foolish, simple of mind, not intelligent, cheap, an image and a stereotype that people use as a lens to judge African Americans from here on out. I find it painful to see it in action. It's a reminder of the devaluation of who African Americans have been in this country. And so when we wrestle with that history and really start to understand it, I believe that's the first step to really ridding ourselves of these images.
But anyone responsible for this is going to feign ignorance and act like the black community is overreacting when we're not.
Evoking blackface. Target now acknowledges the costume should have never been for sale, saying, "As a company, we got this wrong, and we are deeply sorry. We know this is especially hurtful for our black guests, team members, and partners."
That ChatGPT ass response is not enough.
Removing the costume is an important first step, and we are looking closely at how this happened.
No DEI is how it happened. No diversity. No black people in positions that matter is how it happened.
We're cutting setting up cards today.
It comes 1 year after the company's controversial move to roll back its diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, which sparked protests and boycotts by shoppers.
We need to hold larger corporations accountable.
One Minneapolis area business leader claims this new costume controversy is an indirect result of Target's DEI decision last year, saying, "You rolled back diversity, so who's in the room now to say, hey, this is wrong?" One commenter on social media saying, "The amount of people this costume had to go through to get approved says a lot. What year is it?"
That's my thing. Just like this tweet calls out, there are several steps to product chain approvals, including supplier intake, multiple rounds of merchandising reviews, vendor onboarding, factory approval, photo shoots, quality control, sample inspections, and internal system review. And at none of those steps did anybody raise any concerns that, hey, this looks a little racist to me. This looks a little reminiscent of Jim Crow, of minstrel shows. Nobody.
So Target is once again in the hot seat for this debacle. This is what happens when you take people or you don't have people in the room that looks like us. You end up doing some shit like this. Target is already facing intense backlash from the black community, and then you turn around and put something like this in your stores for Halloween. Make it make sense, because it fucking does.
This is such a serious topic. It really is. How could they not know how bad this was going to be when the public got wind of it? It is insane.
You would have never, ever considered this if you had someone in those back rooms that looked like us.
You know, there are black stereotypes, again, created during the racist time, the watermelon chicken, big lips, literally minstrel Jim Crow, right? There are Asian and Latino stereotypes. There are Arab stereotypes. Imagine if they would have made a costume with an Asian stereotype or a Jewish stereotype. What that outrage would look like right now. But they don't do that. These companies purposely don't offend those communities. We are the only target for these companies because they think we're gonna spend our money with them anyway and it won't matter. And that's why black people getting on code, being on the same page matters. Our dollars matter. Where we spend our money matters. Who we support and don't matters, because money talks.
So like I said, Target is once again facing backlash for this costume. It was listed under Target's in-house Hide and Eek boutique collection. Now, social media users were quick to note that it's striking visual similarity to the 19th and 20th century racist minstrel imagery and archaic jigaboo dolls, which it absolutely does. And it looks like the model that they put in this costume is also black.
Literally, they put a black kid in the costume. Like, you couldn't even switch it up. You put a black kid in the costume with the minstrel show logo and the pose. What are we doing here? This is not even an argument.
We told you all that Target didn't give a damn about black folks. And y'all didn't give a damn because they got a couple of black folks' products in their store. Or because, according to your Google research, white women benefited more from DEI.
I hear that argument that white women benefited more from DEI. But DEI, just like affirmative action, covered a lot of people. But the people that it was created for, to make an even playing field, to get opportunities, jobs, promotions into colleges, was black people. So everybody's saying, oh, other people benefited more. That may be true, but it also closed the door on a lot of black opportunities because institutions and corporations had to have them. Now they don't. You think that's not gonna affect black people?
When Trump was threatening companies, corporations, and institutions like universities to drop DEI, because in this administration's mind, they mean black folks and people of color. Target was gone with the wind, but y'all still shop there. This is a child's costume that Target had marked as a circus clown. Does that look like a fucking circus clown to y'all?
No, not at all.
Target declined to comment on who designed and approved the product, only saying that it's looking at what needs to change.
There are a lot of people. I know I heard on the Joe Budden podcast, they were having conversations on if this Target boycott was still an ongoing thing or not. I think if it wasn't for a lot of people, it is now, where at least it should be. I haven't stepped foot into Target in over 2 years, and anybody that knows me knows I love that place. They're playing at black people's faces once again because this was the costume they allowed. And just like everybody is saying, maybe if Target hadn't ended its DEI goals, there would have been some black people around to say this is racist as hell, which it is. We've really been letting Target play in our faces. Like, they've been on some weird shit for a minute and we just keep supporting them. This is crazy. It has to be a wake-up call. It has to be. For anybody else that was still supporting Target, that just step in there every now and then, it's like, this is what they think of us. Target keeps getting it wrong because they refuse to include black people in leadership positions. Told you guys, anti-DEI is racism, which we we all should have known. And like I said, I'm just a firm believer when people tell you who they are, believe them. Target showed us who they truly are when they rolled back DEI. The boycott continues. You sided with the Trump administration's scare taxes over DEI, and that's all it was, scare taxes. No corporation, private or public, had to do anything. Trump issued an executive order that could not be enforced to get rid of DEI. For them to buckle under that pressure and instantly get rid of the principles that they supposedly stood for is why black people were so outraged by Target in the first place. Lost a loyal black customer base as well as black voices that were formerly in the room. That's how it happened, why we would continue to boycott until you put some real change in motion. It feels like Target and a bunch of these big retailers and luxury brands have been off code for a while and will continue to be until there are black faces in the room to represent for their largest customer base. And until then, we're gonna have to keep calling this out. But shout out to my channel and Patreon members. Thank you so much for supporting, and thanks for watching. Y'all let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Also, make sure you check out the next video, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram for behind the scenes and life stuff, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.